off with a huge thank you to my friend who bought me this adorable hoodie. Look at Tearmoon, just the cutest thing ever. I love this hoodie so much, and yeah, so huge thank you and shout out because it's so cute. And it was a present for my birthday, which is this week. I will be turning 32. It's just not really fun anymore to have birthdays, but I thought to distract myself from just turning another year older, I would dedicate a video all about something I super duper duper love, and that is the Shojosei Isekai / Reincarnated type manga. So I'll be talking about my top 5, and please, if you love this type of manga or just regular isekai as well, it doesn't have to be Shojosei, comment your top 5 or top 3 or top 1, whatever, below, because I am always on the lookout for more of the isekai-ness. And I don't know, it's just something I've super duper loved. I think it started initially when I got into ReZero, and also My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom. I found that manga online and started reading that, and then I was watching this anime around-ish the same time. I can't remember exactly what was first, and I really liked both. I was really enjoying both. And then it's like the manga publishers, they all knew to start cranking out those Shojosei Isekai villainous type stories, and I'm eating them up, okay, quite frankly. But yeah, like, I'm gonna start off with a little kind of what is the basic definition of a Shojosei Isekai / Reincarnated manga. I did / Reincarnated because not all of these are protagonists that are isekai'd in another world. First and foremost, some of them have just simply met a bad end or had a past life that didn't end well and now have been reincarnated, or they have simply gone back in time and are reliving the same life. So there's some kind of reincarnation aspect to it though, some kind of redo or restart over or what have you. So that's some of them. And isekai means a protagonist. Usually the protagonist ends up dead in their world and then is transported to another world. Sometimes it's a fantasy world. With Shojosei especially, this tends to mean that they get transported into a real-life version of something they had experience with in their old world, whether it's a tome game that they are now inside of, or a book that they really loved, a series, or, you know, what have you. But usually they have some knowledge of this world because they like played an iteration of it or they read an iteration of it in their previous life, if that makes sense. So another aspect of most of these, what makes them different than like a regular isekai, I'd say, is the Shojosei, which is pretty much just a mashup of shoujo and josei, which, if you don't know, are the type of manga that are targeted, and their demographic is more towards the girlies, more towards, you know, women. But it doesn't mean you can't enjoy them if you're not a woman. Everybody can enjoy them. However, what seems to be a common thread among most of these Shojosei Isekai type ones is that the girl usually is reincarnated not as a protagonist or OP type character in a fantasy world, like in the more male protagonist-led isekai. They tend to be reincarnated as a villainess, as a character that gets killed off in the game, book, what have you, that they have knowledge of. And so their main goal is to try just as not meet that bad end, you know, to change their fate inside this world, to not trip any flags, to not be killed, essentially. And same with the reincarnated. A lot of times they are just trying to live their life in a way that doesn't end up with them meeting the same bad end that the previous life had. Yeah, so that's the basic gist of what this kind of type of manga or type of series is. I don't know if you could go so far as to call it a genre, but yeah, it has a lot of commonalities running throughout them, and I think you'll get the gist as we go on. So let's just get into it and talk about my top 5 Shojosei Isekai / Reincarnated manga. So first up, I'm gonna tackle the Reincarnated Shojosei type manga, and we will start off with A Tale of the Secret Saint. So this one is definitely a fantasy world one, and it is, like I said, strictly reincarnated. It's not an isekai. I lump them all together because they all have female protagonists and I love them dearly. But anyway, it is about a young girl named Fia who was born into a family of knights and wants to be a knight herself, but she doesn't seem to have much talent and stuff like her other siblings do. However, she is going after her dreams and she decides to take the initiation test, which if you pass, you can become a knight. So in the midst of this test and trying to protect a small beast creature, her life flashes before her eyes and reveals her former life as a powerful saint who defeated the Demon King. And this kind of awakens all of her past knowledge as well as her memories. So now she is equally as skilled of a saint and a magic user, which currently saints, which are the ones that can use magic to this degree, are very rare, but their magic is actually significantly weaker than Fia's from when she was a saint long ago. So she is like an OP goddess, okay? And this one probably would be the closest to an actual traditional isekai with a male protagonist who gets reincarnated into a fantasy world where he has OP powers and stuff, except for the fact that she's just been reincarnated in the same fantasy world. But yeah, it's very much like those type of series. So if you like isekai with a strong protagonist, then I think you would also really like A Tale of the Secret Saint. She definitely feels like a little obnoxious, a little bit cocky, but at the same time it makes sense because she is supposed to be like a 15-year-old girl. And sometimes you read these series or you watch these series that they seem so much more mature for their age, and you don't see that the little cracks of the teenage self coming through. With Fia, you definitely do, for better or for worse. And I'd say after the second volume, she does like mature a bit more through her own life journey. But just because she awakened these, past memories and powers, it does not automatically make her super like wise and sage. I'll just say that. She is a funny protagonist and she's pushing the boundaries of like what her magic can do, all at the same time as trying to hide her true abilities. Because though she's very proud of them, her past life as a saint, she was super OP and regarded. It also led to her betrayal and her eventual murder. So she's kind of trying not to let people know how overpowered she is, but she's a young girl. She's just like, look at what I can do. Like, yeah. So it's a fun line, and all the characters around her are a lot of handsome knights and interesting fantasy creatures. And I especially love this one knight in particular who can sense how much magic she has in her and is so like confused and also in awe of her, and he's just such a lovable fool. But yeah, so it's just a fun cast of characters, I think, and it makes for a just enjoyable fantasy series with that little reincarnated premise tossed in. Next up, another reincarnated series, we have Tearmoon Empire. I will say, just before getting into this one, I understand it is so thin. It is so thin and it's so pricey for how thin it is. So I understand if people avoid it, but if you do pick it up, I think you'll really, really enjoy this one, especially if you already like reincarnated type Shojosei stories. So we got Mia here. She's the crown princess of her country, but her country isn't doing so hot. And not entirely because of Mia's fault, but through her own naivete, ignorance, self-grandeur, she has not helped her country in any way. And so they turn on her. They turn on the royal family, and they end up beheading Mia. And then she wakes up back in her room, and she's like, did that really happen? Was that like a really vivid dream? You know, like what the heck? Like, I'm alive. But she quickly starts realizing that that was indeed real, and she has to do everything in her power to make sure she does not end up the same way with her head cut off, you know? And nobody wants that. So she is making strides to try and prevent the bad things that kind of stacked up in her country that led to the revolt against the royal family. Like, she remembers there was a plague that depleted resources. There was some animosity that formed from that, and like other, you know, things that she remembers that she's going to try and like prevent before they happen. So she's going out of her way to, you know, protect her neck. And in doing so, she's coming across to everyone as not the spoiled princess that she really still is, but as this kind-hearted goddess of a princess. Just the sweetest, most thoughtful, most caring princess that just wants to help her country. And yet throughout it, you always get the running inner dialogue of Mia just actually still kind of a spoiled brat and just wanting to protect her neck. But she's doing all the right things and simultaneously helping her country at the same time. And you do see that she is slowly actually becoming a bit of a more considerate and kinder person as it goes on. But her inner dialogues, they crack me up. Mia is hilarious. I love her as a protagonist. She's definitely trying to improve in her own way. It's just that she's not actually that kind of a person. And I like that, like when they're actually nuanced characters that, you know, they're not just automatically going to be a good person just because she met a bad end. That's just, yeah. But it's so cute. It's so funny. And yeah, I really just end up really rooting for Mia because she's such a fun protagonist and just comedy gold in my opinion. Last up for the reincarnated ones, I really, really love this one, and it also has an anime that I need to watch. I haven't watched it yet, but that is Seventh Time Loop. The villainess enjoys a carefree life, married to her worst enemy. So in this particular one, she actually has been reincarnated into her same life multiple times. So she keeps ending up meeting a bad end, dying, and going back to a like kind of like a save point in a game almost in your life. You keep ending up back at this one point in your life, reliving it, and then she tries to make moves to drastically change her life and not end up dead. So she's lived lives as a merchant, an apothecary, a maid, and even hiding her identity and becoming a knight. And in each case, she ends up dead, and either indirectly or in the case of when she was a knight, very directly, the reason for her death is the crown prince from the neighboring kingdom. So obviously, you know, not the biggest fan of him, and yet in this, you know, seventh iteration of her life, she is proposed to by this same man. Even though she's reluctant, she thinks, okay, I make him promise me that I'll get to live a life of luxury and peace as his, you know, woman. I'll take it. And because she's lived all these other lives and each one developed certain skills, knowing like commerce and trade, being a merchant, or knowing how to clean from being a maid, or fight from being a knight. You know, she is intriguing to the crown prince, which is why he made the proposal. And she is noticing more and more that like he doesn't match up to things she heard about him and to how the future has played out for her in multiple iterations. So she's very curious about like why things seem so different. I just really like the protagonist, Riche. I think that's how you'd say her name, or Riche. Yeah, I don't know. But that's why I'm not saying it much. The others were easy to say. But she's also very capable, strong, determined, and independent, and I really love those qualities. She's also a lot kinder, I'd say, like naturally kinder than the last two that we talked about. But I do appreciate that because she has a lot of good qualities, and yeah, she's just a strong, badass girl with an arsenal of knowledge and skills to use from her multiple lives. So yeah, I like how you learn more about each previous life and about her current life and her relationship with the crown prince. It's all very good. I highly recommend, and I also hope to watch the anime soon. If you have watched it, let me know what you thought below. Now we're moving into the actual Shojosei Isekais. These last two, there are so many actual Shojosei Isekais I love, but if I'm gonna say my top 5, like these are my favorites. These are the ones that, like, even though I didn't realize The Tale of a Secret Saint came out with a new volume and haven't gotten it yet, they're ones I grab the volume up and read right away because they're just really addicting to me. I love the stories and the characters. But yeah, so if you want a full, just more of my Shojosei Isekai recommendations though, also drop that below because I, as you can tell, love talking about these type of manga. So yeah. So fourth up, we have a Shojosei Isekai entitled The Dark History of the Reincarnated Villainess. So this is probably my favorite one, and I don't know why, but I avoided it for so long because the covers were kind of blasé to me, and I picked it up when I was on vacation with my friend in Florida, and I'm so glad I did because I fell instantly in love with the premise and the characters and everything. So yeah, in this story, Konoha is our protagonist, and she was a middle grader with a very big imagination, and she just would rather spend her time thinking and writing about this fantasy world that she created, full of romance and adventure, and she self-inserted herself as the main character of this novel as she wrote. Fast forward, and she is a adult. I think she's working, you know, as a salary worker, and she ends up dying and wakes up in her own creation, The Dark History. But she doesn't wake up as herself that she created in this world as Konoha, the protagonist. She wakes up as Konoha's little sister, Iana, the villainess of the story. So obviously she has to try to not trip all of the death flags in her own story and remember all the details that she had written so that she can avoid the same fate that Iana meets in her novel, where, you know, she ends up a bad end. And I just love her like utter dread of like meeting these characters and her kind of just like sad acceptance that she'll never really get to be the protagonist. Like even in her fictional world, she didn't get to be the protagonist of her own story, like, which is just so sad, and you just feel for her. And the only one who really actually believes in her innocence and is trying to keep her alive as well is, in the beginning, her big sister, Konoha, who is all a straight up angel, like she's super duper sweet. And, you know, and Iana, Konoha reincarnated as Iana now, is Also a really kind girl. She is your typical Shojosei Isekai protagonist that's just worried about not dying and protecting her sister because she cares about her creation of Konoha and starts feeling a familial bond. She also starts, I think, getting some of like Iana's memories from before she was reincarnated as her. And it's interesting, the more the story goes on, the more it feels like it's devolving and diverting from the story that she remembers writing and kind of becoming its own story. And she doesn't know if this is because she's escaped so many of the death flags and should have already been, you know, killed at this point. And so she is influencing it in a very different way. But there also seems to be a faction of people that start emerging that have some kind of knowledge of the dark history, which is her creation, her story. Only she should know details that they know. And so yeah, it's just very interesting how it melds all these different things together, and the characters are just fun and enjoyable, and I absolutely love her and Soul. Like, I just like, Soul is her kind of bodyguard that's been assigned to her by Konoha, but really he does not trust Iana and he is waiting for any excuse to kill her. So she has to convince him that she is not trying to hurt her sister in any way. And it's just really cute how their relationship develops and how Soul's, like, you know, distrust of her starts to change. And I just think they're really cute. And these two are just ones I really ship so much. I just think they're like so cute. And I mean, Iana has a few male suitors, I would say, through the course of this series, but it's not very romance heavy at all. It's very much mystery, adventure, fantasy, and, you know, she's just trying not to die and protect her sister. So yeah, it's just much more of a fast-paced, action-packed series actually, and I'm just the one that's taking every small romantic moment and going freaking feral over it. So yeah. Out of all of them, this is definitely the most dark in tone, especially as it goes on. It just really has a lot of dark and sadder elements to it. So yeah, be prepared for that. It is not as cutesy as some of the other ones. Although obviously, like, they met bad ends, like bad things happen to all of these protagonists essentially. This one definitely delves more into a dark tone, and it's like dark history, so you know, yeah, it kind of to be expected, but I guess I did not expect it in a way, so I just want to like forewarn you if you're thinking of picking it up. But I think it's great. I love the edge to it. It's the last volume, especially volume 9, just shocked me with the direction it went. It was pretty hardcore. And, you know, there's always a chance that we get a very, like, you know, kind of wrap it all up in a nice bow, turn back the time type of ending. But I kind of like when stories lean into the dark bits. So I kind of hope they don't do that. But we shall see, because it hasn't ended yet. None of these have ended yet, actually. At least not their publication in America here where I am. So yeah, all ongoing series. But otherwise, it does have a lot of funny, more lighthearted moments as well, but definitely it's the most dark tone wise of all of these. So yeah, keep that in mind. Our last entry isn't a manga, okay? I was gonna make this all manga, and then I was like, but I haven't talked about this one in depth on my channel yet, and I so love it, and I need to tell more people about it. So I did make an exception. There is one webtoon, okay? There are many webtoons also in this vein that I super love, like A Stepmother's Martian, Villains Are Destined to Die, Why Ray Liana Ended Up at the Duke's Mansion. So many, and they're so good. But this one, I have a super special place in my heart for it, and that is Not So Wicked Stepmom. I just absolutely love our main characters and the story and everything, and it is probably the most simplistic story out of all of these stories by far. It is more romance based. So if you really do like romance, I would definitely recommend this one. And this is a isekai because this woman worked as a dress designer or in a company that made and designed clothes. And so when she suddenly dies and is reincarnated as the evil stepmother of Snow White, I mean, like, what a story to choose to be an isekai story. Like, it's so random to me, but it works so well. All this previously evil stepmother wants to do is dote on her beautiful daughter, who is essentially Snow White, but her actual name is called Blanche or Blanche. I don't know. I say Blanche. Anyway. And Blanche, if you remember Snow White, there's really not a dad, is there? There's the evil stepmom, but where's the dad, you know? He's not really present in Snow White. You know, not in any iteration I know of anyway. But in this story, it kind of makes sense that he has a traumatic backstory, by the way, but that the king, who's Blanche's dad, really doesn't want anything to do with Blanche. He has, first and foremost, issues with women, which is why the stepmom kind of became evil, because he disregarded her and wanted nothing to do with her, just like he wants nothing to do with his daughter. But the wicked stepmother, Abigail, just wants to dote on Blanche, and she is not offended that the king won't give her attention. She's offended that the king won't give Blanche, his own daughter, attention. So she's more on a mission to make him connect with his daughter and be there for her. And I think it's just so wholesome and sweet. And you know, he, like I said, has trauma, he has issues, but he is a very cold, aloof, and distant character in the beginning, which I don't know what it is about that. I just yeah, that's not the point. The point is he is kind of a dick in the beginning, and then he will soften as the story goes, which is just it's sorry, I just love that. It's great. And then we'll just say there's some trigger warnings in the fact that how he was treated by women can be very triggering. So yeah, I'll just say it makes sense, and he's not just being a dick for no reason. And he does care about Blanche in his own way. It's just that he's very much not affectionate. He's not really like upfrontly kind to his own daughter. And yeah, they just kind of become more of a family unit. And it's like, it's not kind of a found family because they are family, but like in a sense it is kind of a found family. Like they found their family again. Like they became an actual family. And it's just so sweet. Blanche is adorable, absolutely precious. Abigail is so cute and funny and just endearing as our protagonist. And then of course we got the honky king, who is just a cold little icicle ready to melt into a puddle of adorableness. Oh, okay. Anywho's, I love it. I highly recommend it, as I do with all of these. But yeah, this one is definitely if you want more romance. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this kind of just gushing type video. Sometimes I just love to gush. I love it, and it's my birthday week, so I thought, hey, it's a good time to treat myself. And with that, I think we'll be moving into a much darker tone next week. I'm going to be trying to convince you to read Alice in Borderland, which is definitely not like these stories. But yeah, I really want to talk about that now that I finished reading Alice in Borderland, and yeah, I think more people should be reading it. So I hope you tune in for that. Of course, the best way to make sure you're catching all the videos is to subscribe. We put Tearmoon in the heart. If you haven't already, I really appreciate it. And if you like the video, please do hit the little thumbs up. It helps. Every little bit helps. Every comment and every like really helps the channel. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And until next time, bye!